quite appropriate, because you remember what Cinderella did is she cleaned up the ashes. That's why she's called Cinderella. So she cleaned up the ashes in the fireplace in the same way that forests clean up the emissions that come from fossil fuels on the planet, right? But, you know, Cinderella gets no respect, you know, forests get no respect. So we're right there. Now, Giacomo didn't tell us who was Prince Charming, but I think it was implicit that Prince Charming is, in fact, global climate action. So it's the whole world effort to do something about climate. And with forests, you know, if forests get married, Cinderella gets married to, you know, Prince Charming, or forests get married to global climate action, it's going to be a modern marriage where it's a full partnership, you know, of equality, none of this, you know, stuff. Okay. So the hardest part here is, you know, who's the evil stepmother and the evil stepsisters, you know, who kind of tried to keep, you know, Cinderella down. Well, you know, I don't think they do it on purpose necessarily, but it's those other sectors. You know, the energy people, they love the limelight. Sorry, present company accepted. You know, and even, you know, some of the ag people, they try to elbow us aside because, you know, it's like there's such competition for the money and the political attention. You know, it's like every sector for him or herself. So that's the evil stepsisters. Giacomo did say that in his view, the ball, you know, the big event where the prince invites everybody in, was the Paris Agreement. And that, in fact, Cinderella did get invited to the ball, and Forrest did get invited into the Paris Agreement in the form of Article 5. So we got there. As you recall from the story, Cinderella had to run away before midnight, you know, and left her shoe behind because, you know, the coach would turn into a pumpkin. And so there was some unfinished business left at the end of the evening. So this brings us to the question of, what is the glass slipper? Now, this is where I'm afraid I'm going to have to say that Cinderella had big feet, because there's a lot that has got to be crammed into this slipper. First of all, what's left behind is having NDCs reflect the mitigation potential of forests. And so we need political will, domestic political will in the forest-rich countries to do what they need to do to commit to exploiting the potential of forests. And of course, that includes all the things we've talked about today, including the titling of indigenous people's lands and things like that. That all needs to be in the package. We also need, as we heard in the previous panel, about, you know, transformation of global commodity supply chains, because of course there are things that are outside the control of any one government, but if we change norms of how the markets work, that'll be a big part of the solution. And finally, last but not least, we need finance. So if we got that domestic political will, the transformed supply chains, and finance in the shoe, Cinderella will dance in the future. Okay, last thing. Who is the fairy godmother? Okay, remember the fairy godmother was the one who came to Cinderella when she was crying by the fireplace, you know, because she wasn't invited to the ball, and helped to give her the wherewithal to get to the ball, but importantly, the self-confidence that she deserved to be there. And she, you know, found a conveyance for Cinderella, and here's where I'm really going to go out on a limb. So when I was a child, there was a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical about Cinderella that was a made-for-TV musical. It had all these great songs, and the original one was for Julie Andrews, right? And so the fairy godmother is talking to Cinderella, and there was a song called, you know, Impossible. And so I'm just going to sing two lines, okay? You know, it's like, impossible for a plain yellow pumpkin to become a golden carriage. Impossible for a plain country bumpkin to join with a prince in marriage. Anyway, it goes on about things that are impossible, but then it says actually it is. Just in case anybody ever asks, if they do a remake of the movie, I want to audition for the role of fairy godmother, so just, you know, keep that in mind. But what the insight for me is that we are all the fairy godmother, because we are the ones who have to inspire confidence in forestry world that we can get out there and make our case to climate world and to development world and anybody else who hasn't yet been evangelized for this agenda. And if we do that and sort of come up with memes like forests, less than 10% of the problem, 30% of the solution. You know, we can get out there and change the world, and then we will all live happily ever after. Okay.